right, so welcome back everybody to our latest episode of The Nest. We are now at week 10 of the 2022 NFL season, and the Patriots are coming off of a 26-3 win over the Indianapolis Colts last weekend, and now they are on bye this weekend. So we'll talk about the Patriots' win over the Colts, and we'll also talk about the Celtics and Bruins, who have continued to play great into the season. And we'll also tease the World Cup a bit, but we'll talk about that more next weekend. And joining me for today's episode is Rohan Venkatesh. How are you doing, Rohan?
Good as always to be here, and in a week where the Patriots have a bye, it's good that they got a win last week, and looking forward to seeing them play against the Jets next week, especially after they beat the Jets just recently. And this is a strong Jets team who recently beat the Bills, so I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. And there's other sports going on. The Bruins and Celtics are both playing pretty strongly, and it's a great time of year. So let's take it forward from here.
Yeah, definitely. So, we talked about the Patriots first. 26-3 win over the Colts. Basically, it was the last game for head coach Frank Reich, who was fired by the Colts after the game, and they had to hire Jeff Saturday as their new coach. Jeff Saturday has no coaching experience, so that's going to be very interesting to see how that works out. But overall, for the Patriots, did you want to say something, Rohan?
Yeah, it was interesting to see. Jeff Saturday as as a player. He's made several perennial appearances in the Pro Bowl. From what I recall, it's interesting to see him now.
Champion.
Yeah, it's interesting to see him now as a coach of the Colts. But that ship has been a sinking ship, and it's been pretty much a disaster. But I think this is a year for them to rebuild. But that said, it's good that the Patriots are able to get back on track. I'd love to see them dig themselves out of that last place spot in the AFC East, which has always been a tough division, considering the fact that there are some divisions where all the teams are sub 500, where the Patriots would have been the number one team if they were in such a division. So it just kind of points to how unfair the division system is. But it is what it is. But I'm looking forward to seeing Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi, whoever happens to take control of the QB spot, really taking the reins and make a strong showing. It looked like last week was a pretty strong showing for the defense. Basically limiting the Colts to 3 points, 1 field goal, and that was pretty much it. It's not that the offense did a bad job either, posting 26 points, but at the same time, that's pretty much as dominant of a showing as you can possibly get. Martha, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, Mac Jones overall was 20 of 30 for 147 yards, threw a touchdown pass, but that was also because of the block punt that set the Patriots up at the Colts 4-yard line. So it was a 3-yard pass for Ramondre Stevenson. So overall, I'm still not very happy with the offense. There was only one drive. They actually had no actual scoring drives aside from that one that was set up essentially basically handed to them by the block punt, and the other touchdown came on the interception by Jonathan Jones, who returned it for a touchdown. So Jonathan Jones was outstanding. He also blocked the punt, and the defense was terrific. 9 sacks on Sam Ehlinger, the Colts quarterback. But the offense is still kind of concerning. Ramondre Stevenson played well, 15 carries for 60 yards, 3 catches, 10 yards, and a touchdown. But I do want to see Mac Jones kind of improve, because at this point he has taken a major step back from last year. Last year at this point, he was actually playing pretty solid, pretty well. He had a couple games against the Browns and the Falcons where he played well. The Patriots were doing well on offense. But this year, the offense is really, really struggling. And I know that the team doesn't have the same talent as other top teams in the league. But the receivers they have, they should still be putting up more of a performance on offense, which they haven't done that yet. So
yeah,
I would like to see more of that.
Kind of disappointed for Mac Jones overall, but I do kind of like the fact that they're mixing up in the sense that Ramondre Stevenson, he took a few passes. So he's traditionally a running back, and when you see the running back essentially acting as almost a de facto receiver, it shows that the offense is willing to mix things up. And I think when the offense has really been struggling, I think that's pretty much the only way to reinvigorate invigorate this lineup. So the defense, I really got no concerns over there. Aside from that one bad game they had against the Bears, it's pretty much been solid this whole year. And if the offense can do just enough, I think they got just enough in the tank to kind of to push themselves over the line. Can Mac Jones improve? Definitely. I gotta say. As to the Mac Jones versus Bailey Zappi discussion, that's kind of a hard one, right? Because when Bailey Zappi was playing, he was posting great numbers, and And when he came in that game against the Bears, I mean, it pretty much ended up being disastrous. Although that was kind of an uncharacteristic game. So I would at this point even give Bailey Zappi another chance, have him start a few more games. And if that gives Mac Jones enough of a chip on his shoulder to improve his game, then so be it. That's kind of how I see it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still okay with Mac starting for now because we saw what happened when Bailey Zappi also had to play from behind against the Bears. I mean, he led
Yeah,
the
but that's when he
drive.
stepped in. That's when he stepped in. I'd say like if you start him, that probably changes things. But go on.
I mean, I don't think it really meant like much about whether he started or stepped in, right? Because I mean, he led two drives, right? Even though he stepped in. So I mean, he was playing well initially, but I think eventually, like he kind of faltered too. So I mean, I wouldn't really use the whole like. I mean, maybe if the team was struggling the whole game, you could say, yeah, if that's because he stepped in. But I mean, they had a lead, right? And against the Bears, it was 14-10. He led two scoring drives. So then what happened after those scoring drives? Like the whole offense kind of faltered. It wasn't just Zappi's fault. So
It's not about
without
whether
help
they're
from
able
the
to
rest
do
of the
much on
team.
their own, right? Because it really depends on how much can he do on his own versus how much Matt could do on his own. So I think at this point there's a weak case for both of them, but I think it's slightly weaker for Mac. So in that sense,
Well, at the same time, I mean, Mac against the Jets, right? I kind of like that they actually made him play the whole game and not like they basically allowed him to go through what he was going through because against the Jets, they were down 10-3. And I mean, at this point, a 10-3 deficit is no longer what it used to be with Tom Brady here. A 10-3 deficit, especially against a good team on the road, is
looks a
kind
lot
of
scarier
difficult.
now.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that they were able to come back from that game and actually win against a good Jets team that just beat the Bills. I mean, that at least shows me that at least hopefully Mac is gaining more confidence in himself again. Because I think recently what's happened is with the injury, and then you consider him getting benched for Zappi that one game, I think his confidence has also taken a hit too. So I think building that confidence back, at least if you can do that and like show that again against the Jets next Sunday, that'll sort of be at least a step. Like I don't again, the ceiling for this team is probably a wild card spot, but the way this whole like playoff system now works, like it's really up in the air what's going to happen, right? Like Buffalo, obviously they are beating the Vikings right now, but Josh Allen's injured, right? If he's battling an injury and the injury gets worse, then all of a sudden that division becomes a lot more open, and really any team has a shot. So at this point, I'm still not like, I mean, just because you don't have a great shot at doing anything doesn't mean like there's plenty to improve on. And if they can get hot at the right time, maybe they make a run like the 49ers did last year and go to the NFC Championship game, or at least in this case, go to the AFC Championship or something. I don't know. Something can always happen if you play your cards right. And if one thing I've kind of also just want to make a note because it's the bye week, I think this has kind of shown kind of like the Patriots show sort of what good coaching is like. I'm talking about the head coach, not the coach, like the not coaches like Patricia or Joe Judge. But I think this is also trying to kind of show you the value of good coaching in the league because Belichick, the job he's done this season, having this team at 5-4 with all the problems they have. Yes, they're in last place, but that's because the division is very difficult. But look at some of the other teams in the league with talent, like the Vegas Raiders, right? With Josh McDaniels, that team is 2-6. The Broncos are under 500 too, even though they have Russell Wilson at quarterback, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. They have very good receivers and a good defense too. But that team's under 500 too. So it's kind of showing you like sort of like that even if you have talented rosters this year that are they're underperforming. Even the Buccaneers are underperforming. They're now 5-5, but they were 3-5 and probably would have been 3-6 until Brady pulled off a miraculous comeback against the Rams. So it's showing you that a lot of teams with talent this year with subpar coaching are struggling. So what this shows me is the Patriots, even with a less talented roster, but with great coaching, can probably match up with some of these teams that probably would be better on paper, but they don't have good coaches. So that's what I'm trying to make a point of. That a lot of these teams you could probably really beat if the coaching takes an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Belichick was definitely given a tough hand. I mean, there are times when I've been very critical of him. In fact, I've been probably more critical of him in the past. But given the grand scheme of things, he's generally been holding things up, which is probably the most you could ask for given the situation in Pat's locker room right now. And normally this would be considered a mess roster wise. You can't really figure out who your quarterback is going to be. Your offense is struggling. The only real bright spot has been the defense, but I got to give him credit for that. But especially when you're given all of those facts, the fact that Patriots have been able to stay competitive and hold up for this long is a feat in and of itself.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, this isn't to say that I think Belichick deserves to be here for like another 5 years to break that record for sure, even if the team is struggling. But I think it is showing you like the value of good coaching in this league, because this team with all the problems, if there was like a coach like Nathaniel Hackett in Denver, then this team probably could be like 1-8 or something. Like they could be really bad if like another coach was here who couldn't handle all this controversy and what was going on. So at least Belichick this year has done a better job than I would probably like. I mean, I think it's kind of notable to show like they're 5-4 at this point. Yeah, they're last place in the division, but like
I've seen Belichick like when he's bad, and I would qualify this as one of those times. But I don't think I've seen him so bad that he's driven this team to the ground. Whereas I've seen other
also
coaches do
just
that.
worth
So
saying, like being last place in the NFL, while that is not a good thing, you can still make the playoffs theoretically for last place in the NFL.
last place in a really tough division is very different from being.
But you can still make the playoffs because now there are 3 wildcard teams, right? So theoretically, every team in a division could make the playoffs. Obviously, it hasn't happened yet, but it's only been 2 years since that system has been implemented.
But in a crazy division like the AFC East, it's possible. The AFC East is a crazy good division. I mean, every single team in that division is if not, you have great teams to pretty good teams, and I would put the Patriots in that pretty good category.
Basically, you can't pencil them in as like a sure win, right? That's basically what you're trying to say. Like all these teams are teams you're going to have to basically play hard against, and there's a chance you can lose to them. Like that's sort of how I'm looking at it. You can't just look at the roster and be like, "Oh, that's an easy win." I don't think that's the case for this division anymore at all. It really shows you kind of how the other teams have progressed.
That's the thing with football, right? Anything can happen on any given day, and that's kind of what gives the game its suspense.
Exactly.
There's no such thing as an easy win in the NFL, and it's probably more so in the NFL than in other leagues. Given that, I'm looking forward to next week, and I think it's going to be a great game versus the Jets.
Yeah, I mean the first one was 22-17 in New York, so I'm excited to see sort of how the defense kind of continues to play well. They seem like they have Zach Wilson's number so far. I mean, they intercepted him 3 times last time they played. So I mean, yeah,
the Patriots have been they've been pretty good at Gillette this year. So I think it's looking pretty good for the Pats.
Yeah, definitely.
That's not to say that the Jets can't pull one off. I mean, this is kind of what we all thought against Buffalo last year when the Patriots beat Buffalo at Orchard Park, and then
that was a little different, right? Because
then the Bills came to Gillette, and then they shellacked us.
But that was a little different, right? Because against Buffalo, that was like 3 passes. Like that was a very windy game and stuff like that. So like that was a very run-heavy game overall. Like this Jets game was not like that. The Bills game was like an anomaly all in itself because the Patriots only threw the ball 3 times that day. And also, like the second time they played Buffalo, it wasn't actually that much of a blowout. It was only 12. I mean, it was 33-21, and it was actually 26-21. And the defense had to get a stop, and they couldn't do it. So I wouldn't really say like Buffalo really blew them out. The playoff game was a blowout, but that's that second meeting. So,
well, every week, every team is different. So, I'm curious to see how it goes next week.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I guess we'll have to find out like how the team does. But yeah, we'll be back next week again.
But these are interesting times in the NFL. I mean, Bucks are in Munich. They beat the Seahawks this morning. So I think I would say this is probably positive for the game overall.
I mean, I think Seattle might be like I mean, considering they traded away Russell Wilson and they moved on with Geno Smith, that they're actually looking like a real playoff team is very impressive to them. That's probably a testament to Pete Carroll. With that roster, to have them 6-4 and leading the NFC West is very impressive. So, I mean, that's another team. With the division with the Rams, who just won the Super Bowl, the 49ers, and the Cardinals, all 3 playoff teams from last year. Seahawks missed the playoffs. They're now leading the division for now. And that is a testament. I mean, I think Pete Carroll has done a terrific job in Seattle too.
I got to give it to the fans in Germany though, because even after the final whistle, they were all still there. They were just taking every moment in, and I think they just appreciate the rarity of that kind of moment when the NFL comes to Europe, and they were willing to take every moment in. I don't know if these are fans who are from Munich or people who travel to the game, but when you're playing in a historical arena like the Allianz, where the likes of Bayern Munich play, and this is typically where the likes of Thomas Mueller make his bread and butter, Manuel Neuer, and the likes of them, and the other Bayern Munich greats. So when you see Tom Brady step onto that kind of ground and do what he's able to do. I mean, it really speaks to the expanding nature of the NFL around the world. Granted, it's early, but given given the nature of how there was a developmental NFL Europe League back in the 2000s, it's good that the game is back over there, and I think the future's only brighter from here.
Yeah, definitely. And okay, so that's sort of we'll wrap up our football talk. Let's move on to the Celtics now a little bit. I mean, they've been playing very well recently. 6-game winning streak. Jason
Just win after
Tatum is
win.
playing like an MVP overall. I mean, he's been terrific. Yeah, Tatum has been awesome. 32.3 points this season, which is third in the NBA. I mean, he had 34 against Denver on Friday, 131, 112 win, and then 43 against Detroit last night, 117 to 109 win. And against Detroit just last night, Jaylen Brown was out, but Marcus Smart had 18 points. Grant Williams had 19 points. So just kind of showing you like sort of the depth on the team is very, very deep. And I think overall, this team is just primed for a deep playoff run again. I think really it's going to be them or Milwaukee.
I really don't think the Celtics have missed a beat. Okay, Jason Tatum's our star. Okay, if Jason Tatum has a bad night, okay, Jaylen Brown steps in. Okay, if Jaylen Brown and or Jason Tatum are having an okayish night, Marcus Smart can step in, and you have your role players as well. Al Horford, who's able to step in. So it's not like so pretty much wherever you go on the court, it's the Celtics have valuable weapons, and they've been consistently posting scores in the 110s, 120s, sometimes even the 130s. I guess this is like if I really have to pick on them, there's really nothing to pick on the Celtics, but if I really have to pick on something, it's the fact that the defense has allowed more than 100 points in every single game. Now, that said, in the end, in this is NBA, 100 points is kind of considered like the bare minimum. But I in the early stages of the season, we had concerns about the defense, but I think that's shown signs of improvement. And really, yeah, nothing to complain about the Celtics. I mean, it looks like they haven't missed a beat.
Yeah, I actually think the defense has actually gotten better since the start of the season, because now at least, like, I mean, they allowed 112 to Denver, but I mean, they also put up 131. So the thing is, when you're up by so much, your defense sort of will all of a sudden you'll rest your starters and your bench players will come in, and then that's sort of what's happening. So I'm not really as worried about those types of performances. Like, I guess the thing will be against Orlando, they allowed 120 points. Like, that was more concerning to me at that point, because it was 126 to 120, I believe that score was. And yeah, I do think the defense needs to get better. Hopefully when Robert Williams does come back in January, I believe that should definitely provide a boost. I mean, he's their best defensive player, even if Marcus Smart did win that award last year. But I think overall the Celtics have shown, like, I mean, they are really playing with a chip on their shoulder after falling short of the finals last year. So I think they really think that, I think they have a really good chance to get back to the finals this year. I think it's really just going to be them or Milwaukee in the East.
It's going to be kind of a mixed path. At least next week they're playing against OKC next week, who are 12th in the West. They're 5-7 right now, so hopefully they should be able to take care of business over there. But then after that, they gotta play against the Hawks. They're 4th in the East, and then after that they play against the Pelicans, who are 7th in the West. So I guess that kind of puts them kind of in that smack in the middle mediocre zone.
I think all those teams are talented. I mean, even OKC, Shia Gregarious Alexander, I think SGA, that's what his name is. Shia Gregarious Alexander is one of the premier players in the league. So, I mean, he is very good. And then they also have, I mean, the Pelicans have Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, and then the Hawks have Trae Young and DeJounte Murray leading the way. So, I mean, all those teams have talented teams. And I'm expecting the Celtics to probably lose some games here and there. But I think the bigger thing is, like, nowadays, if they lose a matchup, I'm not actually as worried anymore. Like, before in the past, I'd just be very frustrated over losses. But now, at least now that sort of I've seen what this team is capable of, when they lose games here and there, sure, I'll be a little frustrated, but at the same time, I'm not really like as concerned anymore. I'll just chalk it up to a bad night, and that they'll play better going forward. So I think that's the biggest difference, even with Joe Mazzulla, who I think has done a nice job so far. So I mean, 10-3, they're 2nd in the East, and I will just say keep going.
Speaking of coaches, looks like Ime Udoka is not going to the Nets because Jacques Vaughn looks like he's going to be the Nets coach for.
Yeah, and Brooklyn has actually been playing better now. So I mean, we'll see what happens there going forward too. I mean, Kevin Durant has been on a tear recently, and Ben Simmons is also playing better. So we'll see how this team continues to play. I mean, Brooklyn is a very talented team for sure. I think it'll be interesting to see sort of how all the pieces fall in place. But right now, Kevin Durant is on a tear right now. So, and he is a great player altogether. So I'm
I
not
mean,
surprised.
granted, they're Brooklyn's dealing with all sorts of stuff, especially with the coaching situation, and of course, I I don't have to go into details about this, but they're dealing with the whole Kyrie saga. So I mean, given that the way that the way that the Nets have been able to keep their head above water is really something.
Yeah, I mean, Brooklyn is still a talented team, but I think that they have too many flaws that come playoff time is going to hurt them again. So, I mean, just on the roster side of things, right? Like, I don't think that they have enough right now as is to really contend for a championship. I think Philadelphia maybe, but like they've kind of been struggling too. I know it's early, but some of the fundamentals, I just sort of look
Yeah,
at that team.
I had them as favorites before the season started, but I still stand by that. I think it's still pretty early to write off Philly. I think they got their core is fundamentally talented, and I think these first few games really haven't shown who they really are as a team. Joel Embiid, I mean, he may not be having the best season right now, but I think he's got a lot of time to make that up. So I'd be watchful about the Sixers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the West is also pretty interesting this year because right now Golden State is kind of struggling. They have won their last 2 games, but they are 5-7 right now. So the West has actually been kind of interesting too. The Lakers are struggling. The Warriors haven't been as dominant so far. I mean, it is early, but it is kind of telling that both teams have sort of started off kind of slow. I mean, the Lakers are probably going to be pretty bad, but like overall, I think the West is actually showing that it's actually more competitive than people gave it credit for. Everyone at the start of the season was saying Golden State for sure would get back to the finals. But I mean, they still might, but I mean, I don't think it's just as much of a guarantee as people sort of were saying at the start of the year. So I think there's a lot of interesting storylines that are going on in the league right now. Like in terms of
The
teams,
Warriors
very
look human all
competitive.
of a sudden. They looked
Yeah.
superhuman all these years, and now they look just human.
Yeah, I mean, they did miss the playoffs 2 years in a row until they won last year again. So, I mean, I think the Warriors have a very, like, I still expect them to have, like, a good team in the playoff run. But if they play a team like Memphis this time, I could see Memphis beating them.
Oh
So,
yeah, Grizzlies are a good team, and the Celtics were able to pull that one off just barely, just
yeah, but I
barely.
mean, that's the thing. Like, good teams will make
And
you
that was right
fight.
here. That was right here at FedEx Forum, which is normally a tough place to play.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics are a great team. That's why I'm sort of like pretty confident in this team going pretty far. I don't know how far they can go. Like, obviously, we'll find out in the playoffs. And really, as the season goes on, we'll see. Like, as they get more and more tested, they lose some games that probably they should have won. Like that type of atmosphere. Like, how is the team going to handle that? So far, they've handled it very well, though. I mean, the losses to Cleveland, they bounced back by winning 6 in a row. So everything, like right now, everything is going well for them. They got like just keep it going and I mean, I think it's doable for them to win a championship this year. I do. I mean, I don't know if they'll be able to pull it off, but they are good enough to do it. I mean, probably they could have done it last year too, but the inexperience caught up to them late in the year.
Well, that's not going to be the case anymore.
Yeah,
But
we'll
I'm,
see.
I'm I'm excited to see how the Celtics are able to fare this year.
Yeah, let's talk about the other Garden team now, the Bruins.
Let's head
Another,
to the ice. Let's
yeah, I
head to the
mean,
ice, and if we thought
26
the Celtics
points.
we thought the Celtics were hot, man. This team has having their best start in, was it 70 years, something like
Yeah, I
that.
think so. Yeah, I mean, they lead the league with 26 points, tied with the Vegas Golden Knights, and of course, good friend Bruce Cassidy leading that side. So it looks like the split was beneficial for both parties, right? I mean, Bruins with Jim Montgomery. I mean, he's been outstanding so far. I mean, this win against the Sabres was super impressive. This,
13 wins out of 15. That's no joke. And
yeah, but this win
and
against Buffalo was impressive, right? It was like tied 1-1 yesterday, tied 1-1 in the third period. Then Zaboral scores to give them the lead, and then Bergeron scores his second goal. So, I mean, he's been terrific. I also was very happy with Keith Kincaid, who just came
he
in
had
out
a good
of,
performance. I mean,
yeah, 30
as
saves.
third string goalie. I mean, Linus Olmark has pretty much been holding up this team
He has been
on,
awesome
on
this
on the
year.
goaltending front.
Linus Allmark.
I mean, I would say like it's still early, but he's definitely got to be in the conversation for the Vezina Trophy winner.
I
That's
mean, he has
no
10
question about
wins.
that.
He leads the league. I mean, he's been
No question about that. I
awesome.
mean, I mean, Swayman has also been doing a good job. Unfortunately, he's kind of been in Olmark's shadow, but Keith Kincaid pretty much coming out of nowhere, making 30 saves and having the kind of performance that he did last night was really like almost unthinkable. As you mentioned, Bergeron with 2 goals. I mean, Jacobs Borrell came in and had and got a goal as well. And like none of these were empty netters. So these were all just like gritty, direct goals, and the fact that the Bruins were able to put up a 3-spot time and time again. They were able to do it against Calgary previously, although the third goal was an empty netter. But I think this team finds a way to win pretty much every single time, despite the circumstances. And fun fact, they're still yet to lose to an American team. They're 13-2, and
yeah, Ottawa and Toronto.
Their only 2 losses are against Toronto and Ottawa. So I guess at this point the Canadian teams tend to be their nemesis. They are playing Vancouver tonight, so we'll have to see how that goes. But just a fun fact, throwing that in there. But Jim Montgomery, he's been phenomenal this year. He's just been able to like rally this team, and I think this team has also been doing a good job of not only taking care of business on the ice, but obviously like in the last week or so, they've been dealing with a lot of stuff off the ice, and I think they've been able to compartmentalize that and really move on from that. And I think I think that the Bruins have dealt with that challenge. I really got to give credit to the Bruins players for standing up for what's right, and for taking this team in the right direction. And ultimately, the Bruins management made the right decision. Whether it was too little, too late, I think that's debatable. But at the end of the day, they did do the right thing. As it sends a message about what the Bruins stand for, as an extension of what the NHL stands for. I think the Bruins definitely did the right thing. But it was just an unfortunate chapter, honestly. I don't know how the rest of the fan base feels about this, but it was just unfortunate. But the Bruins have been able to pick themselves up, and they've been able to keep winning, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the Bruins have just been excellent so far. So I think so far, like everything you can sort of ask for. You've had excellent goaltending in Ullmark, and then Bergeron has really kind of picked it off. And I think Marchand's been terrific, even though he was injured for a bit. So the team is playing well. McAvoy's coming back soon, or I think he's already back. So
next week looks bright. I mean, they're playing Vancouver tonight. They're 28th in the league. And then they're playing against Philly, who are 17th in the league, on Thursday, and then on Saturday they're playing against the Blackhawks, who are 21st in the league. So these are all teams in the bottom third of the league. I think the Bruins should be able to take care of business. Of course, there's no such thing as an easy game. We talked about this a little bit with the NFL previously, but I would say that's also especially true of the NHL as well. Maybe less of other sports, I think.
Yeah, but if the Bruins lose a game here and there, I'm also like less worried about it, right? Like it happens. Like I just sort of think their fundamentals are very strong at this point. So I mean, it's going to be something sort of worth seeing how it kind of picks up over the rest of the year. Can Ullmark sort of play this whole season at a high level? Like that's sort of like my main thing at this point. So far, he's been excellent. Can he continue to maintain his play? And yeah, I mean, I think Bergeron has been terrific this year, especially since he's considering retirement. I think he seems very reinvigorated now with Jim Montgomery as his coach.
I think Bergeron wants to win another cup. I think he's got a sight set on.
I hope the whole team is motivated, because like 2019 they came so close against St. Louis, and now they have a very good team as well. They have a good shot to go far.
And I really think that this, I only hindsight will only have hindsight to tell us whether this was right or not. But right now, I think that the episode that they had off the ice is really going to rally the team. Whether it's whether it's for carrying themselves forward and the message that they want to send to the rest of the league and to the fans. But I definitely do think that they definitely want to prove to the hockey world that they're better than this. And I think that's kind of what they're doing right now.
Definitely, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how the Bruins kind of continue to play as the season moves on. But yeah, that'll sort of conclude our hockey segment. Let's just briefly touch upon the World Cup now a little bit, the upcoming World Cup that starts next Sunday. The first matchup is going to be Qatar and Ecuador on Sunday. And obviously, I mean, we'll have a more detailed episode on the World Cup next weekend, but we'll just sort of tease it right now. I mean, there's going to be a lot of interesting storylines, especially like, I mean, this is likely the last World Cup for both Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, two of the greatest players in our generation, playing likely for the last time, and maybe the last for Neymar too in Brazil, who has expressed uncertainty in playing in 2026. But I mean, it's going to be very interesting. Like obviously Italy has missed, who won the Euro last year, But Brazil, Argentina, England, who made it to the final and lost to Italy in penalties, and France, who won the World Cup in 2018. Those are all teams that are primed for deep runs. And it'll also be nice to see the U.S. back in the World Cup after missing in 2018. First time since 2014, the U.S. made it back to the World Cup. So, I mean,
and this time the U.S. has Christian Pulisic, who's the rising star of the U.S. team, and I think the U.S. of course they're in Group B, which is kind of a tough group, but the U.S. is generally favored. I would say they're favored against 3 of the 4 teams. I mean, the U.S. is currently ranked 16th in the FIFA rankings. If you look at their 3 group opponents, they're playing against England, Iran, and Wales. Those are the 3 opponents. So England is ranked 5th, so that's the only team that's vastly above the U.S. ranking wise. Iran is ranked 20th and Wales is ranked 19th. Both are behind the U.S. Of course, every match can be unpredictable. I mean, famously, Iran did defeat the U.S. In a group stage match in the '98 World Cup. But it's also fascinating that even though the U.S. has 3 opponents, 2 of those teams are within the U.K. So take it for what you will.
Yeah, I think England will be a very interesting matchup. That's actually on Black Friday this year, day after Thanksgiving. So that's going to be very interesting to see that matchup sort of.
Wales is going to be a tough match as well. Gareth Bale.
I think all 3 matchups are going to be tough. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see some draws.
I think Iran's going to put up a good fight as well.
Yeah, I mean, all these teams are good enough to give the U.S. trouble. Like, the U.S. isn't at that stage right now. Like, they're still not talented enough to sort of just breathe through any matchup, right? Maybe against like some of the worst teams that are ranked, they can win, but I'm expecting them to. I think they should be able to qualify, but I'll also save my predictions more for next week's episode.
Yeah, I mean, and if they do get out of the group stage, they're going to be playing against somebody from Group A, and granted that 2 of those teams are Qatar and Ecuador. I mean, Qatar really is not a good team. They're just in as the host. Ecuador, they're a decent-ish team, but if the U.S. does manage to get out of the group stage, I think they have a pretty good chance of making it past the round of 16. And if they do, then all of a sudden they're in the quarterfinals, which would match their best showing since 2002 when they lost to Germany in the quarterfinals in that 2002 World Cup in South Korea. So this is a rising U.S. team. Whether they can make a deep run, I think time will tell. But yeah, we'll be looking forward to a deep dive on that next week, and hopefully we'll have our soccer expert on the show, Untitled Chapter, who's basically our resident soccer analyst. So we're looking forward to potentially having him on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, yep. So yeah, that'll be this week's episode. Obviously, we talked about a lot of stuff, and yeah, we'll be back again next weekend.
And congratulations to England for winning the T20 World Cup, defeating Pakistan in the final, and in the T20 World Cup final at the MCG. Of course, England they did defeat India. I do wish that India had been in the final, but it wasn't the case. But they did defeat Pakistan in an epic final with 1 over to spare in a low-scoring final, scoring 138 for 5 to Pakistan's 137 for 8. So congratulations to England, and it's a great chapter for T20 cricket, and it's a great move for the sports world.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that will conclude this week's episode. We will be back again next weekend to discuss the Patriots-Jets matchup more, and also just discuss more of the World Cup as well as it comes. So yeah, until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. Enjoy watching any of the football games, basketball games, NHL games, soccer games that are coming up. And yeah, we'll be back again next weekend. Have a good one.
All right. Peace.